Hello, one and all. My name is Jordan Leroy Hansen, also known as LeDev. I hope you all are having a good night, and welcome to Top Deck Thoughts. Now, usually for the series, we usually talk about our opinion on Magic the Gathering Arena and also just Magic the Gathering in general regarding the card game meta and also just stuff that is regarding to community interaction and such. However, this is going to be a different episode from tonight. This has been something I kind of wanted to talk about, or at least try to provide some insight about, due to current American politics situations that's been going on for our country for the past 2 weeks. Though honestly, we could just say past few years, but that's another story entirely. But it's been kind of one of those things I really wanted to talk about, and it's hard because I've been having a hard time trying to make this video because there's a part of me that, I'm going to be frank with you, there's a part of me that just really wanted to use this video just to scream, just to yell my head off at some of the ill actions that I've seen for the past few weeks. Like, there's some actions against humanity that happen within this country that I have seen that I am, quite frankly, appalled by. I am frankly appalled. I have seen actions of police brutality and also just exploitation. Just look, for people who don't know me, one of my pet peeves, like one of my ridiculous pet peeves, is when people treat other people poorly through a variety of methods. That's either through their religion, through their race, through all the isms. And what also ticks me off more, if I'm being completely honest, is when you are given a position of power or given a rule and duty to quote unquote serve and protect and actually help your local community, and you use that advantage and power that you've been given to be exploitive and also just to make people's lives hell, especially when they are trying to peacefully express the disagreements of current political situations. That pisses me off. That legitimately pisses me off. Like, I have seen so many video of people being gassed, people actually getting hit with rubber bullets, and it's just, bleh. If people are not understanding my stance on the issue, I'm just going to be clear. Black lives do matter. Just to be clear. And if for some reason that deters you from this video, or just you want to go on to a drama king or queen stance of being like, oh, you should just only talk about card games, yeah, you can leave now. You can leave like your nasty comment or whatever, just go. Because if you're not wanting to be in for just discussion and insight of trying to figure out what's going on, you can just go. Now, for those who want to have more insight of the current circumstances and current insight of the current events that's been occurring, I'll leave links provided below, also ways to help you can support people who are trying to fight the good fight within this situation. So I'm going to try to provide as many links as I can and insight, because I'm still, on one hand, one of the best advice that I remember learning and such, it's just, there's sometimes where you just really need to be quiet and just listen. That is probably one of the best advice that I think someone ever gave me. I wish I could remember the person who gave me that advice. It's one of those advice that you think in general it's just very generic. It's like corny or cheesy, but you kind of realize the power of being able to listen to people's stories and their insights on stuff can actually be a very powerful tool to help with empathy and to help understand circumstances and understand and just help make both your world and also the world of the people that you interact with around with a better place. So I would say I'm going to provide links down below. You can see their insight, see their stories and such, and just find ways to help support and show love to one another. Now, the one thing that I'm going to try to, and this is hard because this was one of those things, like I said, it was a hard time to try to make this video, so I think I'm going to provide kind of my insight or view from this in a top deck thoughts kind of manner of kind of like basically in a roundabout way try to explain a corner at least of it. There's more corners to this case and such, but how we got here, like what's causing all the circumstances of the riots, what's causing this and such. A lot is, and like I said, going to provide down links below. But one thing that I think, at least from I think I'm guilty of, and I think many people have been guilty of, is one word that's been going through my head over and over and over again. It's just complacency. And I think that's kind of what happened. I think, for those who don't know what complacency is, to define complacency, complacency is mostly a feeling of smug or uncritical satisfaction with oneself or one's achievements. And I feel like we're guarding to kind of like our social economic systems and such, and just we've been very complacent and not realizing there's a lot of stuff that we can improve. What I mean by that? Well, one of the main reasons that's causing the whole riots, that's causing the whole movement with Black Lives Matter, with all that, is mostly because of the systematic racism that's been going on. And I'm guilty as charged of this, and many people, even if they don't want to admit it, we have been guilty of at least being complacent with those occurrences. Sometimes unintentionally, sometimes intentionally. What do I mean by that? Well, to explain kind of like what I mean by being complacent, I feel like I need to use a few kind of examples. One that I will say, kind of like just to bring it back to a little bit to the card game kind of situation and such. Kind of like, can you sometimes be complacent in card games? Well, yeah. Sometimes when you have preferred playstyles or just preferred deck archetypes, you can sometimes be very complacent of just sticking to a specific play pattern within your card game planes, like little behaviors or little mechanisms that get programmed into you and such. And sometimes with those complacencies, is it bad to have it? In theory, no. Like, there are some complacencies that, in some sense of the word, it's not bad, but there are consequences to the complacency. Like, for example, like with the card game example, sure, if you have a preferred play pattern and such, a lot of people who are aware of your complacencies or aware of the complacencies that have been built around can be exploitive of those complacencies. Wow, I'm going to say that word a lot in this video, am I? And can just be able to do that as an advantage to win the game. Kind of like, for example, if they know you're... It's kind of like how you observe local game metas and such within your local game store. If you know that the complacent play pattern in your local game store is like a lot of people play aggro, then if you want to have a competitive advantage, you're mostly going to be in a control shell or some shtick like that. Kind of like that. So, why did I bring up that random example with the whole current political situation? Well, the matter is, like I said, we have been very complacent with systematic racism that's been in the background and sometimes in the foreground of our current political system. It has been something that's been going on, and some people were aware of it and they were complacent with it, and some people were unaware and complacent with it. Because the thing is, due to that, there have been people that have been given advantages and unfair advantages due to that. Like, for example, there's one of the main things is just the way people get treated if they get arrested, the way that people get treated when property and such, and just being able to... This is a hard one. Like I said, this is a subject matter that I am not the most well versed in, so like I said, I'm hoping the resources I provide in the captions below will explain the whole situation. But the basic gist, and I hate to summarize it in a gist, but there's been a lot of systems in place that were intentional, very intentional in their formation, that cause systematic disadvantages for people of different kind of like races and such. Like, for example, the one that we've been seeing is with the police brutality is kind of like the weird double standards that we've been seeing when people have interact with the police due to their race, which, like, for example, some people, when they get a ticket, they don't have to mind and such, but there's some people who are traumatized when they get pulled over. And it's just hard because some people are unintentionally complacent with that. It's just like, oh, that's just normal. Go back to the world as it is, yada yada yada. But the problem is with that complacency, we are not empathetic to the people who do have to deal with the factor of the unfair disadvantages and who, how some people can just legitimately say, hey, I'm going to call the cops on a random black person and just use that as a weapon, which is just, that's mind numbing. Like, it's just mind numbing just to see that people, there's some people who are intentionally complacent and know about the advantages and disadvantages of the system in place and are very exploitive of people and making people's lives worse, which is just, like I said, one of my pet peeves. And it's hard because it's it's weird because it's, I think one of the reasons why we got so complacent with it is because it's when you teach through history and such, like when you were young, like I remember through elementary school when we were talking about racism that happened in like the Civil War and also racism that happened through the civil rights actions and such, like during Martin Luther King and all that stuff. It's hard because you kind of get teach that that's kind of a thing of the past. You're, depending on your curriculum and such, you kind of teach that that's kind of like an old thing. Like that's a action that you expect your great great grandpa to do, but yeah, hey, it doesn't affect you. It's all in the past. It's such. But as you grow older and you kind of see what goes on, kind of like with how people are treated depending on where they come from, their heritage, their location, and just how those were intentionally placed due to the systematic racism that we had been implemented. It's kind of, I don't know how to phrase this. It's kind of mind numbing when you see it. It's just seriously, it's just ugh. Just, it's just hard because wow, I'm really having a hard time making this video. I think the thing that just makes me sad when we get complacent with this issue and such, and just, I think one of the reasons why we got so complacent with it initially, besides the fact that we thought it was just a relic of the past, yada yada yada, is because we were in a time kind of like where we were very busy. Like everybody was busy doing their job, doing all their things, going from A to B, do their objectives, do their meta, check off everything, check off everything. We get so focused on trying to finish tasks and such of our own agendas and such that we kind of get complacent and just not focus on the perspective of other people of and just understand and not being able to get their insights of current like political situations and such. And I feel like that is very costly. And I feel like with that complacency, like I said again, and I'm going to sound like an old record player, many people are aware of the complacencies and take advantage of it. Like there's some people that will use kind of like within our politics, like there are literally politicians that take advantage of some of the racist, how do I phrase this? Take advantage of some of the racist attitudes that still is residual through our society. And to the point that it to the point that it just people are using it to just, rather than bring people together in their own clique, but in the long run is just making people separate, like separating people and just dehumanizing them, which is just it's mad because I feel like it's kind of like a toxic kind of cancerous part of our society that's been going on and on and on, and it just it leads to some of the most inhumane actions, like I said, like I jokingly said, like of the past few weeks, but honestly it's been years. Like there are people that are literally in prison now just for small charges, while on the other hand, as long as you're white, you can do some of the most horrendous crap ever and just just get like a few months, get a few years. Maybe you did something absolutely horrible, you get like lifetime hopefully. But yet on the other hand, like if you're just a few shades of skin different and you got with marijuana, lifetime in prison. Like, now granted, I'm going to say this, I'm not going to say kind of like all cops are this or all that stuff, because to be honest, there's a lot of different realms of how people do their law enforcement, well, who they hire, kind of like their training practices and such, so I'm not going to make that generalization. That being said, it is very, 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 very clear that there is some law enforcements that have taken their position of power of being able to serve their community and have did, at least from what we have seen for the past few weeks, more or less use their power just to be a big flat freaking bully and just essentially just dehumanize people that they are supposed to serve and just be absolute monsters, if I'm just being quite frankly honest. Act like absolute monsters. And all I can say to those specific individuals, I'm disappointed in you. You were given a title to be serving your community, and you decide to use that. And not only not serve your community, but use it to actually harm your community and alienate them, and try to make a status quo that in general make people go back to being complacent of a system that is unintentionally unhealthy. And that is really disappointing, especially when people in those positions should be used their position of power to help better their community, better their environment and such. It's just, it pisses me off. It really pisses me off. And there's some people that are just, that go into the kind of like the all lives matter shtick, and it's like, well, all lives matter, doesn't it? Well, yes, it does. All lives do matter. But the thing is, I'm not hurting now. Like, I have a lot of benefits and such, and due to my privilege, I have a lot of benefits and things that actually help me be able to get into my current position and being able to do what I do. How many people have those? And they are actually in a position where they are being hurt, being brutalized, being murdered through people who are using their powers to be able to be advantage of those systems. And like I said again, either intentionally or unintentionally, we're being complacent with that. Like I said, I don't have all the answers for this circumstances. And I even feel like this video has been kind of like a rattling on and such, and just, it's kind of like the equivalent of you having how some people need to write their angry letter and such, kind of like how, I think it's Oprah Winfrey that made the advice, where you write a letter where you're angry at your current circumstances, seal it up, and then just essentially never send it. That might be the case with this video. I feel like it's just, I needed to get my thoughts out and such, and just explain kind of like where I'm frustrated. And I guess to end the video, I'm just going to say, you really got to be aware of people around you. Be humane. Serve. Help people. Listen to their stories. Try to figure out how you can help. Because if you can't, and if we go back to being complacent again, there's a chance that we will see more inhumane actions that are acted upon people. That is, if we haven't already seen it already. I mean, for Pete's sakes, we have seen actions of police brutality. We have seen actions of people being brutally murdered. We have seen actions of childs dying in a cage because he had the flu, but just because 2 words were associated with him, which is illegal immigrant. Just, I'm sick of it. I am legit freaking sick of it. Who knows? I don't know how this video is going to react, but that's my top deck thoughts at the moment. Just be considerate, hear people's stories, and if you can help, try to help out any way you can, because we need to show more empathy and show love, especially in a time where people want to show hate. I hope you all have a good night. This is LevDev, signing out.